All right, dying when falling. So if we take a look at what we have right now, we press enter to start, and our character runs forward and falls off the ledge and dies. So last time when we left off, if you saw the video, basically it's sort of like I dipped down and then teleported back up as soon as I hit the next block. So I figured out what was going on, and I couldn't help myself. I had to keep on going with it. So inside of the physics, we had I ended up rewriting this a couple different times just to because I was debugging what's going on, why isn't this working. So we're checking okay, if a floor is near us and we're the bottom of us is below the top of the floor, okay, and if the right let's see, if the right edge of us is clipping into the floor but the left edge is not, then we're clearly not in the floor. We're probably to the left of it. Whereas with this one, if we're just if we're fully in the floor, the left hand side is clipped into it as well, so we're fully encapsulated inside of the floor, then we teleport ourselves up to the top of the floor and keep on running. Whereas this one, I kill my forward velocity and then obviously I fall down, and everything just wasn't working. It wasn't working. Well, I then realized that the problem that I'm having is because I'm doing where's the grid here? In the grid, actually no, it is in library these days. Here I do my my handle collisions, and I call this here. I query for all the nearby game objects from where the player is, and I had not put this in. This was the one thing that was missing. So if I remove that, run this again, our player sort of does that entire teleport thing again, and it was super frustrating. And so what's going on here? I'm querying the grid and I say, okay, start position. So wherever the player is, X and Y, and then I want the player width, X and plus the data cell size. So get everything in the same cell as me. Well, I really need the next cell too, because if I'm in the previous cell and I'm just starting to collide into the next cell, I can't actually see that next cell yet. So that's what this comes in, is give me 2 cells worth of 4 essentially. So 1 to the right, 1 down, and the 1 in the center. So I'm essentially checking over 3 cells, which is actually pretty cool. I like this. So anyways, we save that, run this, and then we go, and then we fall and die. Now it crashes the game right now, and that's because as soon as the player goes down off the bottom of the screen, it attempts to get out of the grid and get re-added. Unfortunately, it's dead. It's gone. So we need to fix this first. So death while falling is essentially going to have us handle that. If the player tries to fall outside of the grid, we're done. And really, I guess what that is if the physics shows that we're now off the screen. So if I can get the screen dimensions, then I could figure out if I'm now off there. And I'm actually curious, am I really outside of this screen or not? So here's I have my height, my width, we have the game objects, we have our location. We could store the screen size and player physics. That would mean that the game world never like changes its screen size, which that would be a little bit. It'd be nice if it did. I could during our handle collisions or update. Maybe update would be best, and the grid knows about update. If I could put into here like the screen height. And so if I move outside of the screen height, or in the grid, we have this, let's see, move game objects, where we then determine the next index, the next grid index to use. We're continuing here. Basically, if this is outside, so before we run this, we want to check, okay, is the next indexes, are the next indexes in the grid? Otherwise, otherwise the player died. The thing died. And if it's a player, that specifically died. Right now, I think that there is only players, but I could have an event where like just something died, and then send what the type is. That way, if in case we add more, like, you know, if we have a pattern where we want to add more types in here, maybe like a type that moves, then we would potentially need to like work with that. Okay, so let's create like a died event. And then we're going to pass it into the grid, and the grid is going to say, hey, this thing, this game object of type died. And then we're going to pass the... Do we want to just like give it the object? We could. We give it the object ID. We give it the object ID, and then we I like that. Okay, so we give it the object ID, and then we remove it from our the grid. Okay. So send event object died, and or like object off grid. It's like, yeah, it's off grid really. It's like not even off screen, it's off grid. Send event object off grid with the object ID. That way, whoever's listening can choose to go and look it up and grab this out. And then we want to also and remove object ID from grid. There you go. So it gets removed from the grid. Good afternoon, Howard T. It is morning here, but afternoon for you. Ooh, I like that Coding Garden CSS flower. I need to create those. I need to create those so that we could figure it out. But I need like a good theme of art to use. I've thought about like construction or building, but I haven't figured that out yet. Okay, so with this, let's go ahead and create our event. I mean, I guess we could do this ifs check first. So if the next index x, so if this is greater than the entire width that we have, and did I store this? I did. So I have the world width and world height. So this is greater than self.world hit a width, or next index y is greater than self.world height. Okay, so if either one of these is true, we are out of the grid. Okay, so we can console log that. What are you upset about? Set the world height. Oh, expected U size found a U8. So let's convert this. Can I just do .into? Yeah, okay, so that can automatically convert it to the appropriate type. So if that happens, then we want to send this event. Send this event and send the object ID and then remove it from the grid. So I can also just remove it from the grid now too, which would be stuff.cells previous index y, previous index x. So here's this retain. Oh, so we're already removing it from the grid. What I really want to do is not push it. So here, if I move you up, we remove you from the grid here. Then I want to push this. I just basically don't want to do this. Like that. Okay, so if it is outside of the world now, we it's already being removed from the grid, so I don't need to do anything else like that. All I need to do here is send a message. So send event that the object died. Okay, that works. And then this one is like just moving into the new grid location. So we now need that. Bear Duda, good morning. Okay, so we're gonna have a receiver, and I don't think we're gonna. Oh, we can store this, yeah. This is going to be the event game object off the grid. Bear Duda, you're going to stream this morning and do the quad tree stuff. Ooh, that sounds fun and cool. But he ended up going down a rabbit hole creating a better, more accurate sleep. Oh, for the game loop. Ooh, that sounds pretty cool. I've actually been thinking about sending. Let's see. I've actually been thinking about creating a bunch of snippets, maybe like putting them in either snippets or little micro like crates. I don't know if I want to push them up into like crates.io or if I just want to keep them in GitHub. But then I could be like, okay, I have a crate for a GGEZ game loop. Like that's all it is. I pass in the following things, it does the stuff and returns. And that way it would like make everything really fast when I go to like use this stuff. I can just, okay, grab these, here we go, our custom game loop. Either that or snippets. Which like snippets might also be good too. You'll guess this so you can see where it is at. Cool. All right, so here we're going to store in the sender so that we can actually send. So this is going to be the game object off grid event. We'll take this in here. And just store it away. Then down here, we'll use it. And we're going to send the that U64, so it's going to be the game object.id. And of course we have to if let this. So if all right, so we're going to get this send error, and then I'm just going to print line this out. And we'll print that. Okay, so that should be nice. All right, so that should send our event that we're now off the screen. And then we remove it, and then don't try to add it back in. So, which means that it won't try to update anymore, so it'll be gone. Now, of course, if I run this, we're gonna get this error printed out. And also it won't let us run because grid now takes 5 arguments, and we're not passing in this this game object off grid now. Gonna grab that, put this over here. Cool. I'll look through that as soon as we finish through this. All right, what's next? Now let's create this event. Okay, so we have our event now. So for the send, we're gonna pass that in here. Okay, so that will make that happy. And technically there's no errors, but we kind of want to handle this now. So when we receive an event, specifically when something falls off the world, either off to the side or off the bottom, but like it should only be off the bottom. I guess it could happen if you jump over the finish line, you can't finish then, and so that would not be good. Okay, so if you're off the grid, I want to remove this object from the game object's hash map. Is that true? Not exactly, because I want to be able to do the reset. And if we take a look at what reset is, we need to take in the player ID. Apparently not. I'm not using the player ID. Oh, I'm getting this player ID out of it, but I really only care about the player when I'm attempting to find. Okay, so we're finding the player out of here. Then resetting its location. So yeah, we're finding the player out of it, meaning that I don't want to like to remove it, because then it won't be in there to find. So I don't want to like to get it out, but I do want to check to see if it's the player that fell off the grid. Then that can check to see if this player fell off the grid, we end the game and we go to died. So that can happen here in update. So if we're in plane, we're gonna have something very similar to this. And I don't really care. I guess I care about this. This is gonna be and I'm not storing that. That's a problem. Okay, so save you in there. Okay, just like that. Then game, there you go. There we go. Now down here I can use that. So self dot game object off grid dot event. So try rec v. Now I have this U64 in this game object ID. So if this happens, I get this out, and then we're just gonna switch our. So we need to check to see if this ID is actually the player. So we need to extract this out. Can I get, so self dot game objects dot, like, so I know get returns a reference to the value corresponding to the key. Okay, so I can just get, and then I hand it a reference to the game object ID, like that. And this should return an option. Okay, so now I want to check if the game object is a player. Okay, so if you're a player, then we're dead. So we then self.state. Okay, we died. Otherwise, if we're not a player, we just don't know anything. Let it be off the grid, let it be gone forever. And then we've changed the state, so this should be good now. I think that this should not crash the game, and then we're good. Oh no, it does. Okay, so it panicked, out of bounds. It didn't try to run this thing, I don't believe. And I think we have to change this to be equals. Greater than or equals to. There we go. We fall off the world, and then we get our snarky comment. Really? Press enter to play again. If I try to press enter to play again, we get out of bounds. It's off. Here we got 4 is off the grid. Now what does that really mean? Let's go take a look at reset. I bet reset is only resetting like the X, maybe not the Y. So we get the player. Here we have the old player location.x equals player location.x. No, here we go. We're trying to set player location.y and x here. Oh, we're attempting to remove the player. That might be a problem because it's attempting to reach into a place that doesn't exist. So when I remove from here, let's have it like not do that if that's outside of the grid. So only if x index is less than world width Okay, so basically we need the indexes to both be within the world. Be right back, beer duda. Okay. And then you need to be a dot into like that. And I think this should work. There. Right, and I forgot that we reset its velocity. So in our reset, we also have to handle that. So we remove the player if the player is actually in the grid. We reset the player location. We also need to reset the player velocity. So player.physics. Now this is an option. So it probably would be best to have like in player, in game object. Like a reset maybe for the physics. We can actually come in here. We can actually create a method reset on physics. Now, if I do that, I have to add this in here, but that might not be the worst idea because right now, velocity it's set to whatever the speed is for here. Oh, so we have, okay. We've taken the speed and we just store the velocity. It might be good to have like our actual like saved velocity. Maybe like our original velocity. That way we can reset to whatever the original thing is. Or we just have a reset velocity method and sort of bubble that out. Okay, so if I have a function reset here, and we're going to take in the new speed. We don't need to return anything, but we do need to implement this now. All this really means is self.velocity. So x can be the speed. and y becomes 0. And that's all we're going to do with this. So that's reset. Now, for game objects, we could have a reset physics, or just a plain reset here. And so what needs to be reset? We need our location, the type stays the same, the physics stays the same, width and height stays the same. Okay, so basically just the location. So this is going to be essentially the new x and new y. And the speed. Okay, so if we have physics, we extract it out of the box, and then I believe that we can reset that. So we can just say physics dot reset and hand it the speed. Then in the main library here, when we do reset, okay, so this is gonna be the new location. So that's our start x, our start y, and then our speed. K.speed. We remove both of you. And I think that would be everything. Everything gets reset now. The player speed gets reset. So we can fall off the land, we can reset, and do that infinitely over and over and over again. Okay, perfect. So with this commit, we have player can die by falling off the world. Now, are there any refactorings that we want to do really quickly? So I noticed that like some of these like checks that we're doing are pretty like not the nicest. If lets are just extracting from options, so I don't think we can really get away from those. But I'm gonna look for any like nasty if statements. That are not if lets. We might, like we maybe can like extract these out to their own functions to sort of handle these. But I'm not completely sure like where I want to like put them yet. So like basically if we're in the plain state, like we could put the entire plain thing into a function. but it's like, okay, we update the grid. We clone the game objects. We let some. Okay, so we extract out of the. Let's see where. Self the game. Okay, so get our player out of the game objects. So we can handle collisions. So like maybe this could be extracted in, like put into like another function. There could be some interesting things that we do here for like, it won't really be reducing complexity, but we can move them around and shove them into essentially a function that's named. So it makes it maybe a little bit easier to sort of reason about like what's going on. We can just say like, okay, this is handle collisions. Oh no, Bearduda, you have a sinus headache. I'm sorry about that. Let's since you're having a sinus headache, let's go through your thing really quickly. So I'm gonna do a pause for this.